Welcome, everybody. This is our Wednesday workshop, Discovery Phase Knowledge Quadrant, version 2, as it's been recently updated. I'm your hostess, Debbie Levitt from Delta CX, and quickly, this will later go up on the YouTube channel as episode 196. So that's our customer experience, customer centricity new YouTube channel. So please subscribe there. Also note that this is being recorded and that if you don't want your face on the YouTube, please turn off your camera. A quick thank you to everybody who is a paid member of our new Patreon. You can join it for free and it will act like a mailing list where algorithms won't get between you and me, and you can learn when stuff is happening. But people paying $1 a month or more are going to get special early access and perks. For example, after we record this episode, it will go to the Patreon members, and then in 2 weeks, it'll be on the YouTube channel. So if you're wondering, where is it? If you're a Patreon member, you'll see it probably tomorrow, and if not, you'll see it in 2 weeks. So either way, you will the recording will be available later. Okay, so I am going to jump in and do some slides. You are welcome to book questions in the Q&A as I go, and I'm going to check those later. First, I want to make sure I get through my slides. So it'll be slides, checking for questions. We're going to do an exercise together, and then we're going to talk through the exercise, and then I'm happy to take more questions. Alrighty, so let me jump into slide universe. Okay, here we go. Hello again. So a little bit about me in case I'm new to you or someone has sent you this video. I'm Debbie Levitt. I've been a CX and UX strategist, researcher, designer, trainer, lots of things for some decades. My company is called Delta CX. We're a CX and UX consultancy and agency, and we do lots of stuff from CX and UX projects all the way through business design and corporate change. So if you're a curious cat, check us out at customercentricity.com. And clients call me Mary Poppins because I fly in, fix everything I can, sing a few songs, and fly away to where I'm needed next. Please note that I tend to say CX and UX interchangeably. When they're done right, I think they're really the same thing. Customers are users, users are customers. I don't want to die on the hill of who's a customer, who's a user. They're all in our ecosystem. Our company needs all of them to survive. They're people, maybe they're a dog, but okay, they're people. So CX, UX, let's use them interchangeably just so you know what I'm talking about. And of course, you can join our Patreon and our YouTube and our Discords and our Slack. Everything is at deltacx.com/links. So what are we talking about today? Let's start with bad decisions. We've all been in those meetings, the one where we need to talk about the project that didn't go very well. We were sure we had a great idea and solution. We ran a survey that said people like our idea. We sketched a screen and we showed it to some people in a coffee shop and they liked it too. We read books and listened to trainers that said, we just need to go fast. Try out your ideas and learn later if they're good or not. We run with opinions, guesses, and assumptions without thinking of what it costs our company to have to later fix the problems we created. But here we are. Those books and trainers didn't say what we should do when we find ourselves in this spot, the spot where their advice didn't work. Like, our new feature wasn't utilized. Customers are complaining or need help. Customer support costs our company money, plus we're burning our customers' trust for us. Customers are angrily posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever Twitter is called this week. They're telling hundreds, thousands, or even more people how much we suck. We know we didn't get this right because in addition to unhappy customers, we didn't even meet our own goals. We had little or no success. We didn't meet our KPIs or OKRs. Bad decisions that lead to bad products and services often lead customers to downgrade or leave. As an example, here in August 2023, Zoom has made a few bad moves lately that drove a lot of people to cancel. And there must have been a lot of people canceling because within a few days, the CEO was making announcements and rolling back changes. Sometimes we have to lose customers to wake up to how poor our decisions were. And this affects our morale and work culture. People are rarely happy releasing garbage to customers and seeing projects fail. And it's probably our culture and processes that created this failure. Will we learn from this, or will we keep failing in the same ways? We didn't give customers our best. We gave them the least we could do so that we could congratulate ourselves for being fast. We didn't follow through on the promise of our company values. Maybe we can excuse this failure by saying, this is what we meant to do. We meant to fail fast and then iterate. That sounds cool, but how often have our experimental or public failures been a real blessing? How often have those failures saved us money? How often were we really happy that we chose project speed over customer value and outcomes? How often did we iterate or make small changes when we really should have reinvented that feature or started over? Sometimes these aren't even mistakes. We knew we were creating something not quite right, but we figured we'd fix it later. Or maybe customers will think it's good enough for now. But think about when you are the customer. How often does a company's crappy products or services feel good enough for now? You expect five-star quality. Many of these failures happen because there's a lot we really don't know. We don't get together and talk about our assumptions and guesses and what we should do about them. But every project should do an exercise around what we think we know about users, their contexts, and their needs. What do we wish we knew? What are we guessing or assuming? Do we have outdated or incorrect information? Sometimes we haven't researched our target audiences in years, and the data could be misleading. When we realize what we don't know, it's time for research. The more unanswered questions we have as we allow our projects to progress, the more risk we incur and the more expensive it is to fix mistakes and failures later. Therefore, you want to invest in early research to replace assumptions and opinions with evidence. Deeper customer intelligence is your insurance policy against mistakes, guesses, and uninformed decisions later. When we think about exercises around knowledge and customer intelligence, we might think about a FOG exercise, facts, opinions, and guesses, or perhaps a CSD matrix, certainties, suppositions, and doubts. The key problem here is, what is a fact? Is there something we're certain about that isn't true or used to be true but is now outdated? If someone says, I know our users and I'm certain they need this feature we want to build, is that a fact? A certainty? Or is it a supposition or opinion? Once we open the door to an exercise including facts or certainties, we must question the source. How do they know this is absolutely true? If a high-paid person puts a fact on the board, will we challenge them? Will we ask them the source of their evidence? If they say the source is how long they've been in this industry or how well they know our customers, is that accepted as fact? If their evidence is a survey, we check that survey and we find that it was poorly written and or the results were manipulated, do we still accept those survey results as fact? We open a can of worms by asking people for facts and certainties, especially if these end up being opinions, outdated information, or just plain wrong. Ultimately, these are what I call OGA, opinions, guesses, and assumptions. Introducing version 2 of the Discovery Phase Knowledge Quadrant, DPKQ. Whenever you hear me refer to the quadrant exercise, this is what I mean. It shows up twice in my Customers Know You Suck book, but it didn't have a name at the time, and it's evolved a bit since I published the book. The original version was inspired by Helen Page, who I worked with in 2022, and I always like to credit her. Use the DPKQ when you want to know what you don't know. It's the antidote for guesses and opinions. We start with a prompt. What are we talking about today? I've got a slide coming with examples of good and bad prompts. The board has a quadrant with 4 sections saying unanswered questions and what I wish I knew, guesses, assumptions, and what I think is true, hypotheses, opinions, and what I haven't confirmed, and possibly outdated data and what used to be true. Ultimately, these 4 sections are really the same thing, just phrased differently. But I find that rather than one box called opinions or guesses, writing things this way sparks people to think about things from more angles. And we want that. There are 2 more sections on the board reserved for the facilitator. That might be you. One is for anything that's out of scope for our focus or our project. The other is for facilitator notes and documenting our next actions. So who should facilitate this? You just need one person. This isn't a long or large enough exercise or workshop that you need co-facilitators or assistants. I think one person is enough. And since it's about knowledge and will turn into a research project, my first choice would be a CX or UX qualitative researcher or a service designer as your facilitator. If you have 0 researchers at your company, I'm sorry to hear that, and you should do something about that. But my second choice as facilitator would probably be a product manager who's a great facilitator. If your company's research is done by multiple roles, I would still want this facilitated by a qualified researcher who's great at facilitating exercises. I've named the exercise after discovery because there's so much we will discover, but there's never a bad time to do this exercise. Any moment in a project is a good time to discover what we assume, guess, or don't really know. You can do this exercise late in a project, especially if the team wonders why nobody's using this new feature or why our A/B test failed. Before a brainstorming or solution workshop, run this exercise to see what evidence and information the team needs. Then we can do the research that will help us understand people, contexts, systems, and problems before we imagine solutions. But it's best to do this very early as part of your project planning or discovery process. Learn what you don't know so that you're aware of the risk of moving forward without the knowledge you need. We can then plan how to set the team up for success by getting answers to open questions and unknowns. Part of the success of this exercise depends upon the prompt you give attendees. A good prompt can be something we have some data on, but we wonder if that's enough data to take the right action or solve the problem. We have voice of the customer or quant data that hints at something we can solve or improve. We have customer support tickets that demonstrate a pattern of customer issues, which are often a problem we should solve. For example, a good prompt might be, sales noticed it's easier to win business from project managers than engineering managers. We wonder why and how we can better serve engineering customers. Another good prompt might be, 40% of candidates filling out our online job application drop off after the first page. Surveys and support show that candidates don't like the essay questions and hate recreating their resume after uploading it. Good prompts can also come from an idea around products, services, or experiences, what I call PSE, that we might want to create. For example, we like what the competitor is doing and we wonder if we should do something like that too. We should add more features around document sharing. I asked a customer what we're missing and they said we should have free toothbrushes in every hotel room. Bad prompts assume an idea is the right solution when it might not be. For example, we have an idea. Let's come up with reasons customers might want it. Don't get together to brainstorm or invent possible reasons someone might want a thing. If we don't have evidence of what people need and how we can improve their tasks, let's research that. Bad prompts might be too business focused and treat customers like they're pawns we push around a chessboard. We want more conversions. How can we get people to buy more? That would be a bad prompt. Don't dream up ways to push customers around to solve business goals. Bad prompts lock us into one or more predefined solutions. This exercise is solution agnostic. We're not here to prove our idea is good, and we're not here to brainstorm solutions. We're here to ask questions. Do people prefer idea A or B? Sounds like a question, but isn't a good prompt. Where did we get those ideas? What if our target audience either? Bad prompts focus on something that's too early for us to know, like what would people pay for an idea we might release in the future? We can't know what people will pay for an unknown future solution. Maybe they don't want to pay us at all. So now, how do we prepare participants when we are planning our exercise and having them start to fill out some sticky notes on the board, which you'll do in a few minutes after I go through a few more slides? You're going to need to prepare everybody with some rules and guidelines. First of all, this is not a solution workshop, and I can't say that enough. There's plenty of solution workshops. If you like those, you can do those. But this exercise is not about brainstorming ideas, solutions, what ifs, and what might delight our users. That's some other workshop, not this one. If you're running a DPKQ before or at a project kickoff, it's too early to guess at solutions. We're still trying to understand what we don't know so we can learn what we don't know. Sticky note colors don't matter. People can use any color or size note that they like. Remind participants that they should not change, remove, or comment on other people's notes. If there's a question on the board and someone thinks they have the answer, they shouldn't add that to the board. Their answer might be a guess, assumption, or incorrect fake fact. If you see this being done, you will have to be an active facilitator and stop it. When you go through the board later, treat the response notes as assumptions that we will need to check or research. Oops. Sorry, wrong slide. Don't go to the exercise yet. I hit the wrong button. Sorry, I'm so excited to do this today. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons. Also, participants shouldn't add any tags to the notes. That's what the facilitator will do when the time is up and we're done putting all the questions and assumptions on the board. All questions, opinions, guesses, assumptions, hypotheses, etc. are welcome. Remind participants to include anything they wish they knew that would help them strategize, prioritize, make decisions, or understand problems we can later solve. Sure, someone will probably ask what people will pay for this. That will get moved to out of scope since we can't know that yet. But start out by saying we welcome everything on people's minds. Don't put them in a box and limit what they can post. Questions might be about users, customers, and others in our ecosystem. Or perhaps we have questions about our internal processes, systems, staff, logistics, and technology. This board should represent everything we wonder, aren't sure of, or should know before moving forward with a project. And don't put blank stickies on the board ahead of time, because then you can't see who put the sticky note there. If you're doing the exercise live, determine your prompt, book the meeting. 60 to 90 minutes should be enough. Invite your cross-functional team, stakeholders. You can even invite leaders and executives. They're welcome too. Let's hear everybody's questions and assumptions. After you explain the exercise and give them the prompt, give them 15 to 30 minutes to fill out the quadrant. We want as many notes as possible, everything that's on their minds. The remaining meeting time is spent walking through the board, which I'll do at the end of our time today, to move and tag sticky notes, which I'll talk about next, and then documenting the next action and actions and steps. Planning how we will replace assumptions and unanswered questions with evidence and data. This exercise can also be done asynchronously. The main difference is that you would send out a link to a board like on Miro, give people a day or two to fill in all of their questions, what they think they know, etc. Then hold a synchronous live meeting to walk through the board and document those actions. Some notes for you as the facilitator. After everybody has put all their sticky notes on the board, you don't have to move them around the 4 quadrants. If someone puts a note in possibly outdated, but you think it's more of an opinion, just leave it. Our goal is to collect everything on people's minds. The categorization doesn't matter. You're going to add tags. Now I'm using Miro, so there's a tagging feature, and you can see a few of the examples circled. Miro is not sponsored. I pay them. They don't pay me. You can use whatever system you like. And the tags represent where we believe we'll be able to get the answers to the question or the topic on the note. Some questions can be answered internally, like asking our data and analytics team to pull some data, or talking to HR, the legal department, or some internal interviews. Many questions will be answered by qualitative research with target audiences who may or may not be users. These might be observational studies, interviews, or a combination. So create the tags that make sense for your company and project. Avoid assuming that surveys will answer everything. That's probably how you got to where you are now. Notice we have some things marked not in scope. They're going to be moved to another part of the board. Items not in scope are things like predicting what research can't tell us now, like what people will pay for a solution we haven't designed yet. Or perhaps something is out of scope because it just doesn't relate to the topic we're focusing on. It doesn't mean we'll never answer this question. It just means it might not be an answer we pursue as part of the research we do next. Talk with your participants about how much we don't know and the risks of moving forward with our project. Now, this is at the end. After you've done your facilitation on the board, talk about the risks of moving forward with the project without all of this evidence and data. Wow, look at this board. Look at all the things we don't know. And if your team doesn't see what might go wrong because you might move forward without knowing, and how bad that could be for customers and what mistakes can cost us, consider pairing this with a risk mitigation exercise or future perspective. I'll be doing a workshop like this on those on September 25th. So RSVP on our events page, cxcc.to/events. A few more slides. Let's talk about what are the outcomes of this exercise. So by the end of the exercise, you should have a team awareness of what we don't know and an awareness of the risk of moving forward, knowing as little as we do. The next steps, which you'll document on the board around getting questions answered. We need to find those root causes and all of the who, what, where, why, when, and especially, certainly the how, but I always think especially the why. Create a plan for gathering information from internal departments. Researchers should quickly drop a preliminary plan and time estimate for the study or studies that will produce the evidence and data that will align and guide us. Research will identify problem statements, pain points, and opportunities that we can then prioritize and later improve or solve. That's why version 1 of this was called the research collaboration exercise. We're coming together to learn what the cross-functional team needs to know so that researchers can create the right research goals and questions. Researchers are set up for success by understanding what the larger team needs to do its best work. And the team is set up for success by getting actionable evidence, data, knowledge, insights, and suggestions delivered to them. Once we align around evidence, data, and knowledge, we won't need to work from guesses or assumptions. Decisions won't be battles over opinions since we'll have the evidence. When we have great knowledge about our target audiences and their behaviors, tasks, and unmet needs, we won't try to create products and services based on what someone on our team believes or assumes. So at Delta CX, we kick off our project. This is the last slide. We kick off projects with this. We don't kick off with a design sprint or something solution focused. We still don't understand people, context, systems, or problems. The problem someone told you we're working on might not be a real problem. It might not be customer-centric. It might be something easily invalidated. The solutions we create in team exercises like a design sprint can easily be poor solutions if we don't fully understand the problem. Kicking off a project with solution brainstorming assumes you have no questions. Our DPKQ board would be empty because we know everything we need to know. We're aligned on evidence, data, and knowledge. Our researchers wrote problem statements. The team collaborated on prioritizing which problems we'll work on in which order. Now we're ready to consider solutions to well-defined problems. Has anybody gone into a design sprint feeling like that? It's unfortunately probably quite rare. Additionally, when a project kicks off with the client or stakeholders brainstorming solutions, you might quickly teach them that they don't need you that much. Did you just teach them that if they just do certain team exercises and follow this multi-day plan, they can solve problems like the best designers and innovators? Or did you teach them they really need knowledge and evidence? No matter what you do later, start with the discovery phase knowledge quadrant exercise. Document what you don't know. Consider the risk of what I call a guessing lasagna. It's been upgraded from guessing sandwich. Here are all of the things we don't know, so we'll work from guesses and assumptions. Next, we'll guess some solutions to guessed at problems. The more layers of guesses, assumptions, and opinions we have in our guessing lasagna, the more likely it is that one or more of these is incorrect. That creates costly risk and waste for our company. If we want to be more agile and leaner, we have to identify risk earlier and then do something about it. We can increase project efficiency while improving customer outcomes by clearly looking at what we need to learn in order to create maximum customer value and happier, more loyal customers. Before you build, test, and learn, put a cycle of learning in there first. Answer open questions and unknowns. Replace opinions and assumptions with knowledge and evidence. Sure, it takes time and money, but it will save more than that time and money later when customers are happier, the project is more successful, and we truly delivered value to customers and the business. We'll save money on customer support, and we won't have the burden of helping people through a crappy product or flawed service. So in closing, before we jump in, be smarter and more strategic. Don't just rush into the least we can do or the fastest we can get something out. Many teams never iterate later. Many teams are afraid to undo a bad product, so they leave it. This can't be lean or agile. And if you want to make a copy of the board we're going to be working on today or any of my Miro templates, you can find them at cxcc.to/Miro. Okay, great. Let's take a look at some Q&As. Where is the quadrant exercise in the Customers Know You Suck book? Linda to the rescue, who said pages 240 and 282. Obviously, if you have a digital version, you can search for them. Just search for the word quadrant, because I didn't have a name in the book. I just said you can do a quadrant exercise. So there you go. Do we get the slides too? No, I was not going to give out the slides. This is going to be a video on YouTube so people can refer to it later. If people were thinking about, I usually don't give out my slides because then I find people steal my stuff and do my slides. So I would say if you want to share this with someone, please share the video. Thank you for these super questions. Any questions about this exercise before we jump in and try one? Because we only have 15 minutes left to our webinar, we're just going to do a quickie 5 minutes where you're all going to put sticky notes on the board and pretend that we are doing this exercise together. And with 51 of you here, I think we can get lots of notes on the board in just 5 minutes. And then I'll show you how I facilitate the board afterwards. And you can always add some questions as well. And ding, time is up. Okay. So let's take a look at how I would walk through the board and facilitate it if I were doing this exercise with my team or client. And thanks to the magic of editing, people watching the video later, you've skipped the 5 minutes where people were putting stuff up. So you can see the board has exploded. Hint, try to use small and medium sticky notes. Some of these were very big. So I'm going to zoom in and let's take a look at what people said. What is their main goal when collaborating? Okay, so how are we going to learn that? We're now going to go to each sticky note and we're going to tag it based on how we're going to get the answers to this question. And to me, This is research that we have to do with humans. Some sort of qualitative or human-centered design or CX, UX research. We can't guess this. If we try to survey it, we're probably going to lock people into things we think. So I would say this has to be learned through research. What are the most common mistakes while using our solution? I think we can get that from a few sources. We can probably talk to customer support about some of the complaints they're hearing about. And when we are observing and meeting people for some qualitative research, we can try to see where they're making mistakes. Is there a need for collaboration for users that work on site, hybrid, or just remote? That's really interesting. We would want to try to learn more about that based on where people are based. Are people collaborating better when they are in the same space, or what's going on when they're remote? This might be something that we would have to learn from interviewing people. We might not know this from support tickets or survey responses. So I'm going to tag it like that. Let's take a look at this. Oops, sorry. Are customers using our product in unexpected ways? That's definitely the kind of thing we're going to have to see to know. So I'm going to tag that qual or HCD research. What are the most difficult tasks to complete? Okay, again, hard to know that without watching people doing the task. So again, this is where we're probably going to need that qualitative or HCD research. How many people with disabilities use our product? This is a great question. Now, we would also have to determine what we define as disabilities. Disabilities has a very broad definition, as it should. And so how will we know that? Now, maybe, let's see, I forgot a group here. Let's add data and analytics. So if our data and analytics people might know some of this, it would be great to talk to them. Maybe they have a sense of who is using magnified screens or assistive devices. We might also find out maybe from sales talking to people. Maybe customer support knows this, and maybe we just have to research it. So that would be interesting. Let's see. Do we need asynchronous collaboration? Again, probably the type of thing we're going to learn from watching people and talking to them. So I'm going to mark that qual research. How often do people need this feature? I usually mark those as out of scope. So let's practice with something that's out of scope and talk about it. Out of scope. And I'll give it a little gray color. And I'm going to move this to the out of scope part of the board. Now, why do I think this is out of scope? Oh, it doesn't seem to have saved it. And that is because, does it matter? That would be my challenge to you. If you're someone who put this note on the board, if you can prove to me why frequency of something matters, we can leave it up. But the bottom line is whether people need collaboration once a month or 4,000 times a day, we might have to build it. And so how often people use it might not matter. So I'm going to slide it over to out of scope. But if someone in your meeting who put that up there has a really good reason why that should be researched or the answer found, then it's not out of scope. But to me, the frequency doesn't matter because we might need to build this anyway. Do we prioritize them? Oh, the default size was huge. Yeah, I don't know how to change that. I'll have to, everybody look into that for your Miro facilitation, how to make the default size not gigantic. No, we are not prioritizing these. We'll talk about next steps in a moment. What's the purpose of collaborating? Why are people collaborating? We so rarely know why until we have met people and watched them or talked to them. So I'm going to go with research on this one. Let me see if I can find a few other ones. Do our users only speak English? This is one that we might already know. We might know this from our data and analytics. We might know this from talking to sales. They might have a sense of this. Maybe marketing knows, maybe customer support knows. So again, you can tag these with who might know this. We might already have this in some sort of database, because we can tell when people come to our system what language their computer or browser is set to. We could ask people this in an interview, but we probably know this from analytics. So let's get as much stuff fast and internal as we can. Not everything has to turn into an interview or an observation. Which departments need collaboration? Yeah, we're probably going to have to watch people or talk to them to know that. What workarounds are people using? Again, we won't know until we watch them use those workarounds or talk to them. So more research. Let's see if we can find a few things that would be okay. Which are some of our popular features? I'd call that out of scope. What I would ask the person who put this on the board, which I can find on Miro by clicking info, Chihuat. What does that matter? And again, you have to find a gentle way to say it. People are sometimes a little precious about the things they've put on the board, but why does it matter which of our features are popular or not? We want to figure out what we need to know before we move forward with a project that is going to create new collaboration features. Yeah, Karin says, what if frequency has something to do with the business model? Again, if you have a good reason for it, keep it. But in this case, I would probably mark this one out of scope, because but again, open these conversations with your attendees. I say, hey, who put this on the board? Can you tell me more about why we would need to know this one? I'm going to move that one to out of scope. So you can see it would take you half hour, maybe more, to go through all, or less, depending upon how many people were here and how many notes they put up, to go through all of these things, talk through them, give them some tags, and maybe ask some of the people who put these up some questions. How much would users like to pay? Everybody knows this one is out of scope. We can't know now what users will pay for a feature we haven't invented, because we're not at the feature stage. We're not ready to think about a solution. The feature comes from the solution. So it is too early to know what people will pay for an unknown solution. This workshop or exercise is just to know, what don't we know? And again, this is where you can have a tough conversation with your team and say, wow, look at all of the notes on this board. This represents all the things we don't know. Let's talk about the risk of this project moving forward without pausing to learn at least a lot of these things. And hopefully this brings a good awareness to your teammates that it is risky and probably wasteful if we move forward, because there's a good chance we'll get things wrong. So here's an interesting one. We assume they need to collaborate. That's right. They might not need to collaborate. That means it's our foundational assumption. We think, hey, we must need collaboration features. What if we don't? So this is absolutely a fantastic sticky note, and we need to do this by watching people's tasks and talking to them about their workflows to see where collaboration fits in or should fit in. Current ways of collaboration are not enough. That's right. What are people doing now? And does it work for them? Where is there room for improvement? Maybe it's great. So we need to research that. Let's try to find a few more things. They use too many tools. Online collaboration promotes improved mental health. That's really hard to know. Really hard to know, but we can try to know that through some interviews. Tools are better. People use 10% of the features. This one I'm going to mark as data and analytics, because we can find out feature utilization by talking to our internal teams. Now, it's a green tag on a green sticky note, so it's a little bit hidden there, but I can always change the color of the sticky note to help that stand out more, because the color doesn't matter. So we don't have to necessarily do research for this. Our analytics team will know feature utilization if we have set up our system to know how many people are going to this part of our app or system. Let's look at a few more. What could be outdated? Our first round of research told us 3 or more people work on a project at a time. Yeah, maybe that's changed. Maybe with so many people being unfortunately laid off, maybe this is a good question about team size. How many people tend to need to collaborate? What are their roles? Are they part of the same domain? Are they part of different domains? Great things that we could learn. Any questions about what I'm doing right now? I can't see my team talking through this in even 2 hours. They're big talkers. Again, you are the facilitator and you control the conversation. Notice I'm not opening up conversations about every note. I'm only opening up conversations about the ones I think are out of scope, because someone might say, hey, no, that should be part of this. And we have to say, well, wait a minute, why? Everything else, I'm just marking, where do we think we're going to find the answers? I don't need a discussion. I'm not saying this note is right or wrong. I'm just saying this is where we're going to find these answers. Now, again, if you know your team are big talkers and they're going to want to talk about all these notes or act like they're more involved, you as the facilitator still have to keep control, but you can certainly book a longer meeting than 90 minutes. How do you explain the differences between each quadrant to participants? Usually I just tell them this is what the quadrants represent, and I don't give them the secret behind the scenes hint that these are actually all the same. So I just say, hey, let's take a look at this quadrant. Now let's zoom out. Please drop your notes in whichever of these are closest, represent these the closest. It doesn't have to be exact. This box is for what you wish you knew and unanswered questions. I read them out loud and I say, don't worry if something's in the wrong box. We just want to get all of our notes and questions and concerns on the screen. Thank you for that question, Brandon. Let's see. So again, we are running late. I apologize for that. I don't yet have a good sense of how long these webinars would take, but let's talk about wrapping up the exercise with next actions. For the next actions, you're going to make some notes in here that say what happens next. Mostly this is going to be, and I'm just going to write a very generic note. Someone takes responsibility to talk to a domain to get questions answered. So for example, we might say, aha, ultimately, in the end, we found that there's 6 things on this board that we want to get from data and analytics. Hey, Brandon, you're from data and analytics. Can you go get the answers to these questions and bring us back some great data? Hey, there's a bunch of things that we really need to talk to customer support about. I bet they're going to have some good data, even if they don't have all the answers. Francisco, you work in customer support, or you've got some good contacts there. Can you please be responsible for getting those answers for us from customer support? And the facilitator will say, bring all of the answers and data to me. That way I can write up a little slide deck or report and get that out to everybody with the information and evidence that we have found. So you're going to be documenting who is going to take on talking to each domain. It could be one person talking to all the domains. Maybe you have a small team. Maybe it's you. But if you have a larger team, and especially if some of them are from that domain or have good contacts there, give them some homework. Francisco says, do you have a way to avoid useless discussions about, hey, this is not out of scope? Again, you can always raise that question up. You would say to that person, why isn't this out of scope? And if they say something like, well, I really want to know this, you can say, look, this is something worth knowing. We're just not there yet. We are still trying to figure out what we don't know to come up with the right solution or the right features. We can't know what somebody's going to pay for this or what % of our customers will use it. We don't even know what it is. So your question is valid. Always try to validate people. Your question is valid. It's just too early. We do want to answer your question. We just can't answer it now. We're going to have to answer it later when we have a sense of what this solution is or what these features are. Then we can try to spin up the research project that will tell us what people are likely to pay for it or how it compares to other offerings on the market. Chihuat says, is it an abuse of this tool if my intent is to convince stakeholders we don't have enough info about our users to propose a new feature? No, this is absolutely a great use for this exercise to wake people up to what we don't know, that it's too early to try to think of solutions and features, that it's too early to do a design sprint or crazy eights or a brainstorming exercise. There's so much we don't know, and we could really waste a lot of time and money if we jump into brainstorming without getting these questions answered. And especially when we take a look at what some of these questions were and the tags we put on here, we need to circle back with a lot of different teams and people. We might need to talk to the UX team, the engineers or a tech team, marketing, sales, who else was on there? Customer support. Sometimes you might need to talk to HR or legal, depending upon what you're working on. There are so many departments inside of our company that might have information that is just siloed that we didn't know about, and we're going to have to go do some digging. And it's a reminder that there's good information internally that we can try to find, but also information that we're going to need to get externally outside of our company by talking to or observing our customers or users or our target audiences, our potential customers who are not current customers. And that's where you need your qualified CX and UX researchers to plan and execute that research. So everybody can do the research that they are qualified to do. So Chihuat, that's a great way to use this tool. We need to make sure stakeholders understand that we just don't know enough to move forward. And if we try to move forward, we could really get this wrong. And it could be time and money we're going to regret later. Let's see what's in the chat room. When I posted that sticky note about popular features, I guess I was hoping to prove to stakeholders we're adding features without regard for what we already have. That seems like a little bit of a separate issue. That sounds like a separate conversation about feature utilization. But if they're popular, then they're being utilized. So be careful. Think about what you're trying to prove to stakeholders and choose the right data or qualitative evidence or research or other things to prove or disprove whatever it is. And if you have data that disproves your point, run with that. Sometimes we have an assumption or a hypothesis and it's wrong. Be willing to admit that you thought it was this way. Turns out it's not. Sorry that we're running late. We'll try to wrap up soon since people probably have some meetings or things to do at the top of the hour. I wonder if this exercise would work if I'm a one person conducting a freelance job. Yes, absolutely. You could be a freelancer and you could do this with the team that you are connected with at your client company. That could be product managers, engineers, marketers, data people, business analysts, go-to-market, even leaders or executives. If it's a startup, it could be co-founders. Yes, yes, yes. When I come in as a freelancer or with Delta CX as an agency, we run this with our clients, and it's really helped us have some good conversations with them and to also be set up for success with our research project by being able to say, great, here's what we don't know, and now here's our plan, because that's going to be another action item. Let's put it on the board in notes and next actions. So we can say our CX UX researchers will plan a study or studies to answer HCD questions. So all the things that we ended up tagging, I used the color blue. You can use a different color, but everything that has to be answered by talking to people, observing people, whether those happen in the same session or for some reason we're conducting those separately, or we decide there's some other method we need. Now I need to create a plan that says, hey, here's the research we need. And I need 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is, talk about it. Because especially if this is early in the project, hopefully you can get that time. What happens is somebody plans a project, there's no time for research. And so we especially give ourselves permission to run with guesses. Hey, no time for research. Let's just guess and figure out later if this sucks. So if we can have this exercise before we've come up with roadmaps and project plans, then hopefully someone will go, oh yeah, we really shouldn't be planning this project or road mapping when there's so much we don't know. Let's learn this stuff. This has a cousin, by the way, in Design Sprints version 3. If you've seen, there is a version 3 of Design Sprints. It's different than versions 1 and 2. Y'all know I don't love Design Sprints, but if you're doing them, it's an option. And Design Sprints version 3 says you should be doing 6 weeks of research before you try to do a design sprint. Now, it might not always be 6 weeks, but it's a good reminder that before our solution brainstorming, we've got to know stuff. We've got to know stuff. Do you create a list of tags before the exercise? I did. I put some tags into Miro before, but I realized as we were going that I forgot a few. I forgot out of scope. I forgot another one. So you can certainly make some tags ahead of time, but don't put the sticky notes on ahead of time, because one thing I like about Miro is that it will tell me who put the sticky note there. Though again, people coming in anonymously, it'll show up as anonymous Jaguar or whatever. But here I know that you happen to make this note, and that way I can say, oh, you made this note, you know, what were you thinking? Tell me more about this. Seems to me this needs a facilitator who's experienced and focused, can be done as a democratic group exercise. Please, no. Please, no. I agree. Then that's why I had half a slide on facilitator. You definitely need a facilitator who can keep this under control and block some of the people gently and friendly with a nice smile from taking over the exercise, from high-paid people from taking over the exercise, or saying, no, my thing is true, or we have to run with my idea. So you definitely do need a strong facilitator who is going to try to keep this in check, because you can see it can very easily turn into maybe some disagreements, or what do you mean it's out of scope, or why can't I put ideas on the board? I have solutions to this problem. Okay, but your solutions will be treated as assumptions. We don't know if it's the right solution or not. We have to learn more about it. So yes, definitely facilitator. I don't suggest a group exercise where nobody's in charge here and nobody's tagging the board and nobody's making sure that we have documented our next actions. Feel free to document dates, deadlines. Hey, Francisco, can you get us everything by Wednesday? Hey, Ader, you're going to check with our stakeholders on this. Can you get that by Monday? You know, so somebody, because then I'm going to check in with y'all. Boo, Francisco says, F you. I'm going to check in with everybody later. This is all going to be documented on the board. Who's doing this? When are they doing it by? And I'm going to bug you, because you might be holding up the project, but today is, yeah, no crying. There's no crying in this. But again, give people a reasonable amount of time. I missed a chat. With introverted participants, it's difficult to know more about certain stickies. Is there any suggestions? Sometimes I tell people, hey, if you put up this sticky, but you don't want to talk about it out loud, send me a private message in Slack. Or because chances are your company has Slack or Teams or something else. Send me a private message. I won't say your name, and and just make sure you do that. Don't yell out their name. Don't be like, Shweta says. Well, then everyone will hate you forever. I won't be able to do this yet. When I get into strict mode, I turn into a Russian gym coach. All right, we don't want to fall into stereotypes, but yes, it definitely takes some practice, and certainly facilitating is not for everybody. It takes some practice as well. Thanks to everybody for running way late on this one. And again, please, this will be on our YouTube video, our YouTube channel in 2 weeks. If you are one of our Patreon supporters, which you can join here at, where is it? Patreon.com patreon.com/CXCC. Thanks everybody. Thanks. Then for just as little as $1 American dollar a month, you'll get it tomorrow. I obviously need to do some editing on it, and then I'll try to post it tomorrow. I am traveling internationally tomorrow, so I'll do my best. Everybody, I know you have to leave. But thank you so much. And if you're watching this video later, please leave your comment or question under YouTube. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe. It's the best way to support the channel. And I hope everybody will join us for next Wednesday's webinar. You can join us free at cxcc.to/events. You're not put on a mailing list. You're just RSVPing so that you're reminded and you show up, because I want to see you here. And next Wednesday, we are doing how to make customer journey maps more actionable. I did this with UXpressia and people freaking loved it, and I had a great time. And so we're going to do it again. It is live, and it is audience participation. You are going to be, oh my gosh, you're going to love it. It's laugh out loud funny. Thanks everybody. Have a super week. I will see everybody Tuesday live on the YouTube channel for office hours, Ask Me Anything, and next Wednesday for another live webinar here on Google Meet. With that, I'm going to end the recording and thank everybody again for their participation. Bye.